Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Newsmakers TV. I'm Jerry Roberts. It is Friday, March 22nd, and we are joined by our all-star panel of top local journalists, Gwyn Lurie, executive editor and editor-in-chief of the Montecito Journal, Josh Molina, man of many hats, who covers politics and policy for Newshawk. The Angry Poodle himself, Nick Welsh, award-winning columnist and executive editor of The Independent, and Ryan P. Cruz, not to be confused with Ryan O. Cruz of the Santa Barbara Independent. Thanks, everybody, for coming. I just can't let go of this first district thing, I know. But Josh, we had a little conversation with Roy Lee yesterday, which is now on our YouTube channel. I'll write a little something about it over the weekend, but just real quickly, what was your takeaway on Roy post-election?
Roy, Jerry, we interviewed Roy before the election, and I thought he was kind of on point, a little scripted. He had his talking points down. This interview was much better. He was more relaxed. He was calm. He was himself. And he was saying essentially the same things, which was, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to represent the constituents. This is not about me. This is about the people I represent, and I'm going to listen. And you get the feeling that he actually means it, that he's not somebody who's trying to put a spin on anything. He's not trying to tell you what he thinks we want to hear. He's actually saying the same thing to us that he would say to anyone who asks him that question. And the most interesting thing that I found about him is that he's actually like a really strong housing advocate, which was like shocking to me because he's been sort of
affordable housing advocate.
Affordable housing, he's been portrayed as sort of this like Republican, in disguise. And he had the best answer. What is a Democrat? He said a Democrat is somebody who believes in the government, can do good work for the people. And that's exactly right. And then he also said he wants 40 to 50% affordable housing with all these housing projects. And I just want to know, and then I'll let you talk, Nick, is that's an unrealistic number to many, but even Das Williams, who prides himself on being the climate change affordable housing activist, he never even called for that. And so I think the interview shed light on Roy being able to be more comfortable now that he won, saying exactly how he feels on these issues. So who knows what's to come, but I thought it was a refreshing view into an elected official who just kind of a plain, well-spoken guy.
I think you might be getting a little overly intoxicated by the Jimmy Stewart aspects of him. He's really a completely winning human being. There is no doubt. During the campaign, he was very intentional, or his campaign manager was very intentional. We are talking not about housing. We are talking about maintaining the status quo and what makes Carpinteria. And typically people who don't want housing, but want to say they do want housing, say, I want 40 to 50%. And so you go for, what is the old cliche, the perfect being the enemy of the good. In this case, the 40 or 50% is completely unattainable, and nobody can deliver it. So if you say, I'm going to give you the goose that lays the golden egg and the cow that jumps over the moon, you sound better maybe than you can deliver.
You know what struck
me? Just have that cautionary caveat.
That's true, Nick, but he didn't say that before he won. He said it after he won.
They are sort of flip sides of the same coin, I would say.
Well, he wasn't making false promises. He actually got more excited after he won. And obviously 50% does not pencil out, and no one's ever going to do that. I understand that. But what I'm talking about is he is pro-housing. He pro-market or pro-affordable housing. He is a Democrat, and I felt that came across.
But he's also calling out the developers. I mean, come on, which we're going to get to in a minute on this housing thing. But the thing that I liked about it and housing, and this is the Mr. Please get off my lawn segment of the program. He's saying we should push back somewhat on the state on this. This is crazy. This one size fits all. Everybody's got to be developing stuff like we're in San Jose or something. And I appreciated that. Gwyn, you're going to interview him this afternoon. Oh, no fair having a cute dog on your.
This is Sir Lancelot.
All right, Sir Lancelot. Try not to talk while Gwyn's talking. What do you want to ask him specifically about Montecito?
Well, I want to ask him what he feels, what are the topics he's really thinking about? How is he gonna help himself learn everything he needs to learn in order to serve, which I think he's got to put some system into place right now he has 8 months to get up to speed. And I'd love to know how he's going to do that. I mean, I think that Nick is right. He's promising things he can't deliver, but I don't know a single politician who doesn't do that. So politicians run for office and they promise Coca-Cola in every fountain. And if we're lucky, they end up selling cans of Coca-Cola. It's like, it's never exactly what people hope. And he doesn't have really the power to do exactly what he hopes he will do. But I do think that this just goes back to something we've talked about over the months and years, Jerry, which is the important role we play as local journalists, which is it's up to us to keep reminding him of what he's said and to keep these people honest and not to go along so closely on the journey with them that we get jaded along the way. I mean, there's no question that he's not going to be the same guy in 2 years from now. And I'm not saying he won't be a person of character and he won't want to do a good job and he won't be honest, but I think he's going to learn the ins and outs of having to make deals and horse trade and put together coalitions, and that breaks down one's purity in politics. So I think that,
just to follow up on what you're saying, in this race, we had Das Williams on one side who told everybody what was right and what the problem was and what the solution was, and he knew best. And that was what he got in trouble for. And then on the flip side, you had Roy, who was to a fault, I'm just here to do what the people want. But the people speak with mixed voices. They want a lot of contradictory things. And when you're in office, you have to make tough choices, and you have to, make people angry and upset your friends. And I think it's very much a story to be told how Roy navigates that. And I think on one hand, Roy Lee is, as everybody says, he's a very winning human being. But my sense, in my very limited exposure to him, is if I played poker with Roy Lee, I would lose money. So I would not be selling Roy Lee short.
And I'm really interested in seeing, how he handles himself in the supervisor hearings, because it's someone who's covered Carp City Council and the Board of Supervisors. Those are two different animals, and they look over different issues.
How does he act at those council meetings? Does he talk a lot? Does he talk a little? Does he ask a lot of questions?
He's very supportive of businesses, and he's very Carpenter is a very small community, so public comment and what people say during public comment is really taken into consideration with the board there. And when you're on the County Board of Supervisors, there's a lot more constituents to hear from, and it's going to be interesting to see, if he stays this course that he's on now, or if he's business minded, how does that manifest in the supervisor level? Like right now, I imagine it's somebody who's in college prospect that's really good, and we're going to see in the big leagues if it really pans out.
Yeah, I think right now he's a cipher right now for everyone to project their hopes and dreams onto, and I think it remains.
Maybe one reason that he beat Das and Laura Capps didn't, because Laura wasn't. I mean, Laura was.
Can I say something about that for 1 second? Because I actually had a conversation with an unnamed elected official who called me a few days ago just to download on this, who said, now that I've thought about it, I really think he won because Laura Capps would never have received Republican votes because of the Capps name. And he got so many of the Republican votes because he doesn't come with a strong Democratic Party association. So you're able to have this kind of bipartisan, coming together of support for this guy. I think it's maybe a little bit of that, but I think it's even more that we're 4 years down the line, and there have been a couple of things that have happened in the last 4 years that I think were just the tipping point.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. It's
Really
going to be
frustrating.
interesting to see the precinct results from Carpinteria, because he won, as I recall, every precinct. Das won every precinct.
So it is interesting that both Joan Hartman and Roy Lee reached out to Republicans. And I mean, there was the mailer with Mike Stoker and Roy Lee that went out. Mike Stoker, for people who don't know, is sort of the godfather of the Republican Party here in the South Coast. And I think Bush Firestone was part of that as well. So when you have that, that's a very strong kiss on both cheeks by the Republican Party. And Joan Hartman up in the 3rd district made a point to knock on Republican doors, to put mail in Republican mailboxes, whereas Das's campaign was more going for the party faithful. And in a low turnout election like this one most undeniably was,
Well,
the
that's
margin.
been their play. I mean, that's been their play. Let's turn out the base. We're not going to talk to these.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, Jerry, that in this one, you needed more than the base.
All right.
Well,
But
can I-
one final,
wait,
we got to
Jerry,
move
Jerry.
on.
Okay, but Jerry, one other point, because this is going to get you so many viewers, what I'm about to say. Can I just say one more thing, which is that I really think we're leaving out one very important piece of the story. I don't think the local Democratic, I think not only didn't the local Democratic Party help Das win, I think they helped him lose. I think by not even interviewing his opponent this time and 4 years ago, I think it was just people had enough.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting to read the official Democratic Party after action report on this. For better or for worse, Das has become tagged somewhat disparagingly as a product of the Santa Barbara Democratic machine. Snarky journalists have used that vague term so freely for so long that readers rarely think about what it means. He's talking about you, Gwyn, and Josh.
I don't use the term machine. Actually, the people who use the term machine the most is the local Democratic Party. They call it the machine.
I think Jerry Roberts is probably a close runner-up.
But then it turns out it's all Nick's fault. Newspapers make endorsements but have little active follow-up. This time, though, calling Das arrogant and suggesting he's more interested in being right than effective was, all right, now follow this sentence, was sufficient for the Indies editorial board to peel off a portion of voters who may be bothered by the odor of cannabis plants and yet not want to consider how difficult it might be to tap the potential for generating county revenues from a previously demonized but now perfectly legal substance.
I would say those people were already peeled off, if you can follow that sentence.
That was written by an English teacher. Please diagram this sentence. Okay, we got to move on.
Yeah.
Jerry, last word. I'll be under a minute.
You're being hijacked, Jerry.
Defenses of Das like that are why Das lost. Because people around him did not look him in the eye and say, stop. They blame the journalists. We are the messengers. We are the messengers of the people who have experienced this firsthand.
Including elected officials.
Das would be much better off, okay, cleaning house and surrounding himself with an entire new team of fresh minds who can cultivate his strengths and peel away all the garbage. Because if he's going to surround himself with people who are going to tell him, Das, you're not arrogant, you're not self-centered, you're not self-absorbed.
And everybody loves cannabis.
Because even Das will acknowledge that he is arrogant. He knows this. So why would you try to tell him he's not? We are not the problem. The people closest to him messed up his campaign.
All right. We got to move on. Ryan, we had this big dog and pony show at the county this week with the developers coming in to preview their projects for these sites that technically need to be rezoned, but it sounds like there's not much question that they are going to be rezoned. What was your takeaway from that whole?
It was an interesting scenario because, like you said, it's kind of they're giving a pitch for rezones, but also the county needs some of these units. So and it's very interesting to see all of them give their presentations all one after another, because usually you go to one of these meetings and you see one of these presentations with their renderings and they're going to transform this community, and you kind of get swept up in it and you start to say, oh, this would be really, really nice project. But when you start to see one after another say the same kind of thing, and they all have the same vision of transforming a neighborhood in the Goleta Valley, and we're really close to Turnpike, we're really close to Old Town Goleta, all these jobs, and we're going to bring townhomes and apartments and dog parks and splash pads and pickleball courts. And after a while, you see, they're all kind of offering the same thing, and a lot of market rate units is what we're seeing.
Well,
And
that was the thing that struck me about both yours and Josh's stories is not one of them said anything more than 20% affordable, which is what is required by the state for builder's remedy and all this other stuff. So
exactly. That's what's required of the builder's remedy. That's the bare minimum. And that's what we are seeing. And it's just, it shows what the housing crisis is right now. And developers are, it's very expensive to build something. The prices are going up. It's hard on their end, but these communities need affordable housing, and the only way to get it kind of right now is to lean on private developers, and that's not going to cut it. If we're going to meet our RENA numbers, we're above and beyond our market rate units already by what's in the pipeline.
Yeah, already what's in the pipeline. You see, that's why I think we ought to put a moratorium on the phrase housing crisis and call it an affordable housing crisis, which I think is much more precise.
And we should define affordable, because in Santa Barbara, there's different levels to it and different reasons why, what's considered extremely low or very low income, those are renters making $30,000, $40,000 a year. And but there's people that are making $100,000 and there's not enough units for them either. So we're really
middle class, what traditionally were called middle class people now need very low.
Yeah, it's really coming to us. Something needs to happen, and we need to foster more affordable housing, whether that be subsidized. And there's the housing authority has pitched in for a lot of these potential rezones, and that's good to see. But even then, they're handling one portion of it, and they have to split it into a different parcel in order to get the tax credit money to work for that project. So we're seeing them try their best to get this affordable housing in there, but it's still not enough, and it's not going to help us meet our needs.
Josh, you had this letter that Lisa Plowman did not see fit to make public from the state, which says you damn well better do all these rezones, or we're going to find you out of compliance. So, if you read that letter a certain way, the whole thing was a charade.
Well, I hate to go back to the county and the board of supervisors, but the county split the votes. Like the housing element was one vote, and then the rezones was separate. And not everyone did that, all across the state. Many agencies missed the deadline for submitting their housing element because there's a whole bunch of things they had to do differently this time. But the county split the process. So now you have a housing element that's certified, and now you have rezones that need to happen within 120 days of the certification. And so really, what freedom is there? Like, they've already told them, here's what we're going to do. And now if they don't do it, their housing element will be decertified, and then builder's remedy comes in everywhere. So it seems very odd, the situation that they are in. The presentations were too short. I appreciate that the county tried to have a day of presentations where we learned. There were 10 minutes. It's like, these are complex projects. They need like an hour at least to go over them. So it felt performative. It felt as though, hey, let's do this to say we did it, which is not unlike the criticism they had when they were doing the housing element a couple years ago, where they held a couple of quick meetings and said, we did outreach. And, outreach, government is bad at outreach a lot of times. not necessarily the State Street Master Plan, which hopefully you asked Nick about, but you know, with this county housing element, the outreach feels very performative, and
Or
the
even
developers are running the show.
even odd, Josh, which is a word I understand Lisa
And
Plowman.
I think what it did highlight, I want to add that we're gonna need
You're frozen, Ryan.
own land
You're
for the
frozen.
housing, and where those properties be, you know,
You're frozen, bro. You gotta see if you can get your internet working. Nick, I wanna, you were really impressed with all of the architectural drawings for State Street this week by what I read in your column. Swept away. But yet there was a certain performative aspect to that as well, no? Oh, it's the Independent that's frozen.
Okay.
I-
Here.
I-
Did I lose everybody? What the hell? Oh, man.